we can share with everyone the pleasure, the sorrow the other part of the world have. I have come from, as introduced by Dr. Shan, I have come from part of the world and it's popular. We are identified by that place, Himalayas. I'm quite sure that everybody knows Himalaya is a mountain range in India, which of course is beyond India to Bhutan, Tibet, Nepal, many countries are within that range. I have come from that. And we claim that, I don't know whether you know, India's capital is Delhi, New Delhi. And another capital of India is said to be financial capital, Mumbai. Mumbai is one. But we claim the Himalaya is the resource capital of the country because we are richest in resources. But unfortunately, it's a global scenario. Dr. Agree will be agreeing with me. It's a very unfortunate. The resource richest community in the globe are poorest. Be it a Himalaya, be any part of the world. The tribal community, they have the forest, they have the water, they have everything and they are more the farmers, they are the producers. They produce the nature, they guard the nature. But unfortunately, they are poorest. They are poorest. And so is the case in the Himalayas. We have, by one act in the country, because we are very environment cautious. So one act was brought sometime in 1982. And it said that whole India, we should have 33% land under the forest cover. And in the mountain, it must be 67% land under the forest. Now, with that kind of an act, the Himalayas have a large forest cover. And we hardly have 6 to 7% land under agriculture. And we have our resources, the rivers, the gigantic rivers, they come from the Himalaya. Total 65% water needs of the country are met out by the Himalayan rivers. We have 18 major big rivers, they emanate from the Himalayas. Now, like other countries of the world, India is also one where we are victim of the so-called global warming, the climate change. We are also facing the heat of this new climatic scenario which the human has induced rather. So let me tell you more about the Himalayas. In Indian Himalayas, we have two parts, western and eastern Himalayas. And they are more, in the western Himalayas, we have three major states, Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand in the north. Eastern Himalayas, we have got 7 states. All these states have that act that works, that 67% land will remain under the forest. Now, unfortunately, the kind of act that we were imposed with also deny our many rights in the forest now. We believe that it's a very inhuman kind of an act that has been imposed on us. We have been advocating that even before this act, it was we only were guarding the forest and the river for the rest of the world and the country. Because the Himalaya feeds 18 countries of the world. Himalayan rivers go across Bangladesh, many other countries, and that means that Himalaya, when we talk environment, unfortunately, it is exclusive human. We do not make an inclusive approach towards the nature. We exclude, and that's what the act was. Act said that there will be 67% land under the forest, and it denied many rights that they had since ages on the forest. And the rights for secondary, they were equally more important to raise and guard those forests and maintain the rivers. Because the rivers in the Himalayas either they are rain-fed rivers, and it is a forest which conserves the monsoon. We are monsoon country. Whatever rains fall, it is a forest which conserves the rainwater, and it ultimately goes to the river. And also, besides, we have snow-fed rivers. And agreeing, you will agree that most of the snow-fed mountains are somehow controlled and governed by the climate. 1 degree centigrade change means many glaciers will melt. So it is 1 degree centigrade may not value Texas, but if it is in Himalaya, it does mean a lot. So in Himalayas, we have total countries about 17% populations in Himalayas, and we have about more than 1 lakh of villages, 100,000 villages across the Himalayas. Now, these places, unfortunately, when we got the independence and we set the development processes, and it happened in a way which is everywhere, we believe, globally also. We had a development approach which was very centrally centric, urban centric kind of approach. We did not begin from the, which should be called a centrifugal approach, it was centripetal kind of approach. What happened? See, it is always, remember that the politics, economy, they go together. The one which reached by the economy, the money with, he also controlled the politics somewhere. It happened there too, where we, in the course of development, largely neglected the rural part of the country, and most of the things begin from urban oriented. Things begin. Now realize the fact that if we look into any country's given resources and the existence, if we think what are the existence that we have in any given country, see, it is the resources which control the country's economy. When we say resources, it does not mean a resource of a computer and an institute. The resources does mean a true capital of any given country are its forests, its water, its food. They are the true capital of any given country. From where these resources come? The question number one was, they in any case comes from the rural part of the country. Herein also you think that this is a Denton people are doing agriculture? No, it is the farmers somewhere in the country are doing the agriculture, and we are the one who eat the best. We take the best of the food. The air that we are breathing, it comes from the forest, which somewhere in the rural part of the forest, within the forest communities. If there is water coming to us, it is somewhere who are guarding, protecting, conserving the forest, and through the forest the water comes to us. So ultimately it happened in a way that those who are guarding, generating, maintaining the resources became the poor. And the richer became the one who do not have anything to do with the resources. The people in that time, the people in New Delhi, they do not produce the grains. They do not produce the fruits, New Delhi to New York. It is the farmers who are doing, and the farmers is the one who has been maintaining the forest, water and everything. And this scenario, this too happened in India. It happened in a way, we begin to grow. We begin to grow, and if you see, look into the gross domestic product rate, GDP, that we claim is economic growth rate of the country, we find that India is one which claim that it is fast growing country like China and America. I mean, we have been. But unfortunately, this is an eyewash. It is an eyewash to all. It is a be China or America. It is an eyewash. This growth, economic growth measure is, in my opinion, is one who have cheated all of us. Now, why I have to tell you, I give you the reason for it. Number one, in my state, I have come from one of the Himalayan states. We got statehood sometime in 2010. We got the statehood, and ever since we got the statehood, our GDP of that undefined state was about 4 or 5 growth rate. It was 4 to 5 growth rate. In 10 years span, the growth rate became 10.2 in this state. We were surprised. What is the basis of this growth rate? Then we came to know, because the state wanted to grow well economically, they exempted the tax to the industrialists, and immediately millions of the people begin to began pouring into industries into our state. Most of the fertile land got taken over, which was very agricultural good land, and many industries they were settled in our state. Now, when the growth rate was decided, it was decided on the basis of industrial growth that we had. It doesn't speak of anything of those rural communities across spread in that my state. It does not speak anything of their growth, their income. It did not speak. It speaks in an average growth rate of the state, ignoring, neglecting the communities all around the state. It happened because the industries, because of the industries, we had many industries that came into play. The growth rate went up. And that became, and our chief minister clapped that we are growing very well. But at the very time, 85% of the community of the state were deprived of many things which they were expecting will happen after this note is granted to us. It never happened. It never happened when we decided to study what happened in 10 years. The forest cover, what happened in our, to the rivers, water flow, the current that we have. We wanted to know the soil runoff, what happened in 10 years. We were dismayed. Because in 10 years, the many forest land were felled to create an industry. And also many good agricultural land were overtaken by the industries. And water resources that began to dry. Government, in order to generate more and more economy, put many dams on the rivers to generate the power to earn the money. Now, with this kind of intervention which the government decided, which of course gave them the GDP, good GDP, but the very time the communities, they were deprived further. But the water resources, I am giving you very interesting data. In 10 years span, we in the mountain and everywhere, Dr. Shah must be knowing very well, settlement, always remember, in any given settlement, the water has been the major factor. Where there was a water, always settlement had always been there. And so was the case in our mountain. The community settled their villages in a place where there were springs. We found that in a span of 10 years, 30% spring dried, because there had been deforestation. So we went up to the government, we said we disagree with this gross domestic product. This gross domestic product is something for foothills people, something for industrialists. The poor villagers have their dependence for forest, the fuel and the fodder. I have to tell you that in my mountain system, even today, 90% fuel comes from the forest. And 70% of fodder, 30% comes from the agricultural waste and 70% comes from the forest. Now all of them begin in 10 years of this span, the decline. The availability of local resources to the community declined. We said, what happened and where in your gross domestic product, which you claim is 10.2 now, where is mentioned that so many villages, so many springs dried up, so many people were deprived of the resources they had earlier, and out of 10 years, you have 100 villages, they migrated from the village to the town. That data were nowhere there. And important was, the forest and the natural resources is immediate livelihood of the community. It is always there in all parts of the world. They are immediate livelihood because they live in the proximity of the forest. They have their livelihood drawn from there. Their agriculture is forest inclusive. We cannot do an agriculture without a forest because we collect the plant from there, we collect the litter from there, our animals go in the forest, we get the fodder for them. It's a very inclusive kind of system that we have been living with. When we ask the government, where is, you please isolate this GDP from the rest of the state and tell us what happened for the rest of the state in the environmental front, in the resource front. There was no answer. And then we begin talking. We do not need this GDP. We don't need this gross domestic product. We need another growth measure. And that another growth measure of the rural poor. And the another growth measure, rural poor means rural communities have dependence on nature, its resources, the forest, the water, the agriculture. We need another growth measure. We want to know in 10 years what happened to these resources, and along with the gross domestic product, please from the next year give us gross environment product too. Let us know what percentage of forest has been brought this year, what water recharging drives have been taken to recharge the river, what measures have been taken to stop soil runoff which comes in the monsoon. There must be a collective, as in GDP, they are giving industry, surveys, infrastructure, that's the collective growth measure. We want another growth measure, we begin with that. And we begin with that by saying a couple of more things, which I want to share with you. I have been saying since the beginning. Look, unfortunately, our education system is somewhere culprit. I believe that strongly, because if this is a system, kind of an education which dissociates you and me both from my village, from my soil, from my forest. And it dissociates me from my family. I get an education, I fly somewhere other. I get education, I go somewhere. I find that I do not have anything to give back to my village I have come from, my forefather had come from. So this an education system has been definitely one-sided approach, and this was a kind of an education system was not the kind which trained us that your economy is not merely an economy based on resource management, but resource growth too should have been the part. Now what is otherwise the urban part of the world are doing? They are doing a management of the resources produced by the rural people somewhere. What is being sold in your most of the store from Walmart to dollar, if you find out, you'll find that they are never produced in Denton, neither in the New York. They are somewhere resources attached to, whether it's a water bottle, whether it is a food, whether it's a bakery product, whether it's a fruits. It comes from the rural part. What is their share of benefit? The question one is. Because why we call them rural? Because they are somewhere economically do not gain the profits, the benefits which their counterparts rather doing by management gain. What is happening? For example, in my state, give you an idea about, in my state, we have in most of the villages around the local shops. And when we try to study what is being sold in the local shops, we found 70–80% product made in urban areas being sold in my village. Then we further studied how many of them we could locally produce. We found 75% we could locally produce because the resource transported from here to urban, processed by some manager there, and then he earned more money, and then it came again back to my village, me to make a buy of my own resources. Now this is a scenario which is everywhere in the globe. Now well, it's all right, it had been doing well, but today it is not doing well. The reason being, there are many, a couple of examples I have to tell you. Another example I have to give you, I with my some colleagues did one bicycle march. You know bicycle? We did it across country. From one part of the country we met 100,000 farmers, 4,000 kilometers, 80 kilometers per day we had been cycling and going to the villages to discuss their plight, the farmers' plight particularly. We found that when a farmer produces a wheat 1 kg, he hardly gets 5 to 6 rupees. I'm talking in terms of rupees. 5 to 6, 7 rupees maximum. When ultimately it is sold in the market as a flour, it becomes 22 rupees. Now look, who took the pain more? The farmer took the main pain, and the other guy who just became a middleman took from him in 5 to 7 rupees, sold it further at 11 rupees, 6 rupees he earned without sowing a seed of the plant, and further on this is given to some other guy who has an flour industry, and he makes ultimately a product with a good brand on it and then sell it in 22 rupees a kg. Now you see a resentment begin to come now, and not only the merely resentment, the farmers believe that we will not do the farming. I was recently in Canada, Quebec. Many farmers I met, they say, no, it's not at all a good fashion for us. We won't want our children to do agriculture anymore. No, they won't do farming. I'll send my land. I'll ensure that my children also study very good institute and get a job. But if everybody will get a job, who is going to do the farming? If everybody will leave the village, who is going to save our forest? If everybody will leave, would like to do a job somewhere other than the village, who ultimately will guard the forest water resources? And you see, we are all going to be victim in time to come. And so was the case that when we had this bicycle mark cross. And the term, the global warming, climate change, somewhere it is because of this economic disparity. Now look at it. What is ultimately, if everybody is worried around the world, that global warming, climate change, who's going to solve it? Are you going to cut your grids? Are you ready not to use a lot of energy which you are consuming? All of us. Professor Very pointed out 30% is consumed by you. Now what is it? You are not generating power, you are not producing the farm, you are not taking any pain. And I was coming in your campus yesterday, I saw that the guy was just pushing a button and the gate opened. He could pull it. He never wanted to do so. Because we are so mechanized, so comfort we want everything. And don't forget, any comfort somewhere take a cost of nature. You find out, you just have to do that. You have to find out, you chase any energy that we have, ultimately where the cost and who bear the cost and who suffer ultimately, you will find the rural. And if we believe that if global climate issues has to be taken care of, climate change, global warming, who is going to do that? Do you think my Prime Minister Manmohan Singh in Delhi or your Barack Obama? None of them. It is a rural people only. Because the sinking point, what he said, the carbon emission that we have, who can consume the carbon? Human will not consume. He is consuming and he is becoming ill, of course. But the carbon is consumed by the forest. The resources, nature is the ultimate body which will take care of any climate change issue, any global warming kind of an issue. And when we go to the rural community and request them somehow, please stay back in the village, remain deprived. Whatever you do, you are doing well, please for us, give us soil, water, air. My only question is, if you become highly educated in this institute and get a very good job, top job in the country, and you are set, that well, you have now very good position, a very good cabin, and you become a king. But we want to take out of you 3-4 things, and you will be happy. Number 1, we will not give you food. Number 2, we will not give you air to breathe. And number 3, the water. Please cut 3, and whatever position you want, you please take. Can you survive? None of us. Because take 2 minutes and stop your breathing air. You can't. So when we know that these are the something which without them we cannot survive, are we serious about that? Are we serious? And it won't be serious sitting in a place being serious. No. Share. And by what I mean by sharing is that see that how you can contribute, how best we can make our rural community as strong as we are. And that is unfortunately reason we are biased against them. I don't know to America, but to my understanding, I was in Switzerland. I had a chance to travel across the world, China, Switzerland. When I was in Switzerland, I spoke these guys. I am a member of a committee in the Swiss collaboration. I told them they wanted to take me around to see the Zurich and its lake. I said, please take me in some rural Zurich areas. When I talked to people there, they said, no, Zurich people are enjoying more than us. They were well off otherwise. But they say there is always a difference between the urban, semi-urban, town and rural. And it is mainly because economic disparity. It is mainly because we have to ensure, and we begin in our place. What we said to the government, we said that you, in my government I said, you have this growth rate. This growth rate represents whom? It is representing the rich people. It doesn't represent the rural poor. It doesn't say the pain the rural poor have been taking by farming, giving all of us a food. Where is their contribution in this GDP? They say agriculture is one. But whose agriculture now? Whose agriculture? Agriculture is also controlled. Ultimate profit of agriculture is not taken by the farmers. They're taken by someone else. So we said no, we disagree with that. And plus along, if the farmer is to do an agriculture, he needs water. And where is the water in your gross domestic product? Where is We need, the farmers need couple of other important things to do in agriculture. Take soil. Where is you talk about what richness you have brought in the soil? It doesn't say anything. And more important, if anything, you even take care of what is the prices we are ultimately giving to the farmers. I went up to Montreal. I came from Montreal, this place. There was a food security conference, and scientists across the world were very serious, eating a lot, of course, at the conference, but they were very serious about food security. I had a simple question to them. I said, I present the farmers of my country. I just have a simple question to all of you. You are worried about global food security, and this global food security ultimately is whose responsibility? You are worried about the price shooting up in the food sector. Who do you think the consumer is, they say, is ultimately suffering? Because the consumer have to pay more prices of the food. It is across the globe. They were very serious about it. I said, ultimately, I just asked them a question, that please answer a question. Now, the question was, if the food prices which are shooting up and consumers are suffering, are you equally serious about the farmers who's producing food get the right prices? The poor prices is being discussed in this global conference, and ultimately whatever decision you come and make a common opinion here in this conference, who is going to do that? Who is going to implement them? It is the farmer. Ultimately, we go to the farmer and say that this is a new science, new technology, new production processes. You do that. I told them simply, dear scientists, you must understand one thing. If you want a farmer to become a scientist and grow more and more, before that, you first become the farmer and know what the farmer problem. The farmer problems are prices. He is not getting the kind of prices he worked hard. And that begins the, unfortunately, economic disparity, because majority of the world, how many people live in the urban areas? You see, if you look into the globe, how many people? More live in the rural, and the more are involved in farming, guarding the forest, creating the water for all of us. And we are not serious about that. Now, we are very serious about them. And that is one reason, because what is happening in the last 2-3 decades, most of the places, that the community no more interested in the farming. They want to quit the farming. They also want to have a very good life in urban places. They say it's better to have any low kind of a job. We agree with that. But I don't want my son to also suffer as I had been suffering. The farmer had been saying to us. And let us go to the urban, find something. This is a stupid job. I mean, we are not paid for what we are working. It is better to get a real job. Now, the question is, which I have been repeatedly saying, if that is likely to be future scenario, what is going to happen all of us? I pointed out that without water, without food, without air, we cannot survive. And if that is the question, all of us have to become serious. It should not be merely a worry of a couple of scientists sitting at some place and clapping for every speech given by some scientist there, and then go back and disappear, and no farmer, no. I advise them, would have been very happier if this conference was for international farmers conference, and the farmers across the world would have come and politically made them sound, to put a pressure on the government to decide their share of profit in the produce they make. This would have been more good conference. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen, and I have to tell you, the heat is ready, we have to face. And global warming, climate change. Dear friends, in my country, I give you another example. If we keep quiet, what happens? In most of the places, you must have heard, India has another heat, which is the local and regional heat. Many places, they are insurgency, terrorism. What we ultimately try to find out what it is all about. One of the reasons was economic disparity. Economic, low-income group people are easily motivated, mobilized to take up anti-national activity. Because they find that I am in a rural area, I don't have any job, somebody give me 3,000 rupees and a gun. Come on, your nation is not doing good, go against them. And that begins. If he had 10,000 rupees in the pocket, he will never like to face the police. And he would never do, because have we ever seen the rich people of any given country and their children become terrorists? Why these guys are becoming terrorists? Because there is something which is in a very way, so global warming, climate change is not only one issue. They have combination of factors which bringing inequity. We, a group of people, are very happy and large number of people are unhappy. If such a situation comes, so the heat, the few people will have to face. And that is a high time for all of us to see that how best we can go. And for example, one of the examples, as I said, we said to our government, and we are working the GM on that. We say there must be globally another growth measure. We disagree with the current growth measure. It speaks of industries, infrastructure, but poor farmers, poor people, their resources are their source of livelihood. What is the status of resources should also be the part of that, and therefore a growth measure which speaks of the rural communities of the world, their contribution also. They also feel respect when they say that I have 200 trees in my forest land and it contributes in the country this much of oxygen, this much of water. And then we begin one more thing, resource credit. We say there has been, of course, another credit, what we call that, carbon credit. We say, okay, no carbon credit. We will call it resource. We produce the water, we produce the forest, we conserve the soil. It should be resource credit. We like you also, the one who's sitting in New York, in other good places. Well, they do not do anything. It's fine, and they have only been trained on computer and other management on our resource-based economy. Let also be sitting quiet. Say that I have 500 trees. It produces so much oxygen. If you want to beat oxygen, give me this rupee. So resource credit. If they begin with that, but see, we must feel grateful of those guys. On the villages, rural, poor and good people who they have not begun with this kind of issues that we are producing and we will eat that. They have been sharing it, and the turn has come that we must share our knowledge, technology and other things. This is one. We begin with that in my Himalayan systems. As I said, we were very surprised when we found that 70-80% product being sold in the rural part of India are urban, and when we analyze, as I said, that local resource-based urban product come back to my village only for my consumption. We begin another thing. We took another intervention, and which globally everywhere we need it. You see, technology and science and knowledge has been the property of handful of people. Knowledge, technology and the science. It never have gone to the farmers and the farmers of the farmers. I cannot say the farmers of this place, because you have the marginal farmer, which I know is 50 acre of land, is a marginal farmer. But in my place, you will be surprised that the small and marginal farmer have a poorest land holding about 1 acre, 2 acres. And they form the 80% farmers there, and so is the case of Bangladesh, Pakistan and Asian countries. And there the population reason is that more number of people, no number of farming, more number of manuals, what they will be having. There would have been the application of technology and science. What in my country, if this gentleman, the middleman so-called, if he takes up my wheat and it give it to some other fellow industry to make the flour, why can't the farmer himself in a village, a cooperative, make a flour, brand it and sell it by himself? By doing so, we will reduce the distance between the farmer, producer and the consumer. What is today happening? Today happening, the producer and consumer are in two different locations, distance. There is a distance. Who is in the middleman, then one man which process, then Walmart kind, and then the business management, and ultimately all costs added and it reaches to the consumer. Both are suffering. The producer and the consumer, we are living in such a world where both extremes are ultimately suffering. And therefore, if this group of people who is doing, we do not deny it, we don't want to wipe off all of them, but we want to decide the profit share. We want to see that if producer get relatively better price, we will remain intact in the village. If he gets resource credits, he will remain in the village. He should also be equally employed what other guys are doing in the urban for ecological employment opportunities. When we say ecological employment opportunity, the forest I have, I should be paid for that. I am generating water, whatever rainfall, whatever water we are consuming, that should have been an employment opportunity, because it's not only for me, but for the rest of the people we are conserving resources. And that ecological employment opportunity, the profit sharing, if it is properly decided and discussed and worked out, and that is the reason what we want a growth measure, another growth measure, because that growth measure will bind the state government to decide what profit ultimately the farmers are getting, what is the share they have, because we are trying to work it out in a way where it will come very clearly. The new industrial growth contribute what? It increase the consumerism, materialism, and the poor farmer, without his contribution, all of us cannot survive. What is his contribution coming? What is the profit he has sharing? Because until and unless we really take some very decentralized approach, growth rate mechanism, the partnership, the profit sharing, we will do this. What is happening, and ultimately, it's somewhere global warming, climate change issues comes. And given with that fact too, we are trying to take advantage of climatic advantage. We also need to be trained, because when I say we, means the rural community we have been representing. What we are trying, that like big industrial houses, what we have been producing, we are branding it now. We think that we really need to be trained for. We are branding our product by saying Himalaya's product. We say this is the Himalayan grains. We just want to highlight these grains are more nutritious than any other grains of the world. You eat it, you will be very happy. We are trying to brand farmers producing with a new flavor. And what we tried, giving an example, what in Himalayan community, as I said, 5 to 6% total cultivable land that we have. And what we were producing, we could never compete with the flatland people, because we do not have those better irrigation facilities. And essentially we produce millets. You know millets, coarser grains. They call finger millets, foxtail, barnyard millets. We can only grow them because we do not have adequate irrigation facilities. We are rain-fed crops, we can only grow. Now when we grew these grains, we found that there is no buyer. And unfortunately, one more saying was, in India, I do not know here, those who are eating those coarser grains, they are low social status they are given. See, the one who eats paddy, I mean the rice, the one who eats the wheat and wheat product has a higher social status. The one who eats the millets, the coarser grains, poor people. So what we had, this is a major challenge. So how can we do a better economic upliftment of the crop that we are growing, and we do not have an alternative. We go paddy, we cannot defeat the people at their flat land. We can't compete with them. But you know, we did. What we tried to do, we tried two things together. We in Himalaya are said to be God abode, the abode of God. We have many shrines in the Himalayas. And all these shrines, many millions of pilgrims come, tourists come everywhere. Every year they come. What we simply went up, we went to the shrine people, the shrine priest. We said, dear sir, we have a question, the temple that you are priest of, we have through you a question to the God. The question is, how this God can bless rest of the people who are coming right from the other part of the country, when it is not blessing the people right sitting below this shrine, the poor villages. What is what this God has done for these villages? Our question to the priest, please ask this God. If it cannot help the community around it, it can't help others. And this would be a question we give a threat to the priest. What can be done? We simply said, one thing can be done. What is that? We said that those guys, those villages who are producing millets, we will value add it, we will make a sweet balls out of them, and all pilgrims coming here, they should buy it as an offering. And it clicked. One village is there, 5 million turnover. It begins. All pilgrims, whomsoever is coming, the shrine, buy from the community. First thing, they produce more and more millets now, then value added, they make a small sweet bakery kind of a product, some sweet ball out of these millets. They are very nutritious, of course, and all pilgrims who are coming there take this as an offering. Two purposes were sought. Number one, more and more area brought under the millets. They were very nutritious, of course, though whomsoever is eating it, they are very nutritionally rich as compared to wheat and paddy. And the third is a different kind of sustainability setting. Because earlier there was no direct market available. Now today at home only there is a market available. That's a kind of some initiative we begin to take. And so in the various sectors we begin that to give a government an example that the community will only work and guard and conserve the resources when their economic benefits are ensured. Why should I save forest for others to take a benefit out of it? Let other drive. Why should I save the forest? Why should I save when I do not have any advantage out of this forest? Until and unless their economy is added to it, we cannot ask the rural poor to grow more and more resources, conserve more and more forests. They will not. And therefore we started with this initiative where the community livelihood from the resources intact, and that one reason was they begin to grow more and more forest, more and more resources they could do. And we also begin many such interventions where the community can gain local benefits, and we have found that in many villages we worked and there was a migration. It stopped. It stopped because the resources, they were no of use to them earlier, now generate local economy. And that's and it's relatively better economy. When we say economy, it's relatively better, otherwise they would have gone to another job. That would not have been their income. But today, with their dignity is very important. And with the dignity, they get a job within their forest. We have been doing. And then we began another education, which I say is a culprit. It dissociates. We begin with another education system. We call it resource education. I must know the village I am born. What is around my village? The herbs, the forest, different kind of thing that we have. And out of these resources, if I can gain some potential livelihood, I must be taught with. Why should I only be taught A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I? I must be taught resources I am born with. And then we begin with the resource education. And that resource education, I'm quite sure in future will be helping a lot. Friends, honestly speaking, I'm not a speaker. I have not come here to give a speech. And that's none of my intention. My intention is merely to share with all of you, because it is a question of future of all of us. And those who are younger, because we are the generation who spoil everything. We are the one who should be fixed responsible for this global warming climate change, because we do not have a correct policy. But I think there is a challenge for all of us, and we together, that we ensure that how best equity works. If we enjoy more, we must ensure that others also take equal, they also equally enjoy. If we only enjoy and others do not, as I said, the results are climate change, terrorism and everything that comes on the earth. So this is a new way we'll have to rethink, redecide, and I have always been saying that environment is a subject now, ecology is one subject which is very, very important, but it should be applied in a different way now. It should be realized in a different way now. And the realization is that we have been trying in our place, that environment honestly is totally the property of rural people of the world. And they should be acknowledged, this should be acknowledged, and they should be benefited with the property which is unpaying currently. And as I said in the beginning, the resource richest community in the world, they are the rural poor and tribal communities, deprived communities. They have the best of forests, but they are poorest because we have not had any mechanism to pay them for the resources they are governing, they are generating. With this, I thank you for this opportunity. And as I said, please, this is not a speech. And I please will request you, please don't clap after my speech, because we do not have, the good signs are not there. Had been the good future ahead, would have, clapping would have meant a lot. But today, I don't think. We do not have a very good situation. We are not very comfortable. You and I may be, but many millions of people are not comfortable today. With that, I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, that was wonderful. Would you be willing to take any questions?
Yeah, please.
From the students, or? Anybody have any questions for Dr. Joshi?
Would love to respond to your questions. He really loves. And I saw the best of him today. He came in full vigor. As yeah.
If you get the rights from your government for the land that the rural people live on, what are the benefits that you think will come from those rights?
Rights of land. We have a right of land.
Oh, okay.
We already have. Once we have what we are looking for is that if my land is not very productive agriculturally, we want to grow forest in that, and I should be paid for the forest. And that should be calculated. All scientists are doing millions of things in the country, across the world. Atomic bomb, nuclear power. Why can't they calculate this forest land, produce so much of oxygen, they should be paid against?
Because it doesn't benefit them.
Yeah.
They don't care. And so many of them do not even care because they say, I don't care what happens after I'm gone. What do I care? And so I think it needs to start really, really young for people, I don't know if we need to indoctrinate it into the churches or something so people grab a hold of it a little bit better, but somehow people have to start caring about what they're doing and seeing themselves as more one with the earth, rather than a separateness. And I think that has to come really young because it's definitely not in our culture to be like it, to see that. And I think that in order for people to not respond, stand in the way, be susceptible to propaganda and mantra, from the elites to the plutocracies that want to have them just say whatever, think whatever they want, march to whatever, vote against their own best interests, really. So I think that's going to have to be a real cultural shift as well. My grandparents and uncle are farmers in Kansas, and I know that they are probably very comparably much better off than your people, but they still, get like, I don't know, 12 cents, 22 cents for a box of cereal that gets paid $4 and $5 for the store, so it's really distorted.
Farmers in the U.S. have the highest suicide rate
Oh.
in the U.S. Is it similar in India?
Yeah, suicide. So yeah.
Very high suicide rate. As I said, when we had this bicycle march, we had gone to the places where the farmers committed suicide. It was mainly because they could not be debt-ridden.
Yeah.
And then, when we did it 2008, this cycle march, it was the government pressurized for that.
Yeah.
And there is a film, Seed of Dissent, I think you have shown that.
I have it. Yeah.
The government then waived off. And we believe that this waiving off is good for the farmers, because they are not never paid the right price for the price they produce. Let there be waive off, as much as we can. Because you see, situation is very dangerous. 40% farmer in my country want to quit farming. They are selling land and want their capitation fees to some institute so that their children take the education and of any quality, but get off from the village. Because we have to enrich village, the challenge that we have, so that everything remains, the sustainability can only come.
Well, what do you think we can do now? What do you think that we can do now?
We means who? The villagers or city people?
No, any of us.
Who?
Is there anyone that we can help? What can we do?
How can we help? She's asking.
You see, there are two ways of doing it. Number one is, we should make it build opinion on the issues. Because who is their representative, unfortunately? If you look into the country, you are also in a country, there are political representatives of misunderstood kind. But the true representative of these farmers, their peace people, are people like him. What he had been teaching, he had been talking about, that's a true issue. And it should not remain up to class and filling a paper for exam. It should be realized from here. And I was a teacher, I remember, and to tell you a very good example. When I was a teacher, and as I said, I produced 19 PhD. Many did not do any job. They worked with me because they were so motivated. And I am sitting in other part of the world, I am not least worried what they have been doing because they are committed people. And we really need a commitment. What is education doing otherwise? Education is doing this, I am against. That it is dissociate you with the real issues, want to make you a doctor and engineers and so on to grab more and more money. But not to understand. That's why ecology and environment is going to be very, very important subject, and it has always been, but it is going to be very important currently. And we'll all have to be very serious because none of us cannot live without a water and oxygen. If you can, please go ahead. If you can't, please join the next.
Dr. Jim Veteto himself has done some farming before, right? He's really committed. So, yeah.
When I was an undergraduate, when I graduated, I farmed for about 10 years. Couldn't really make a living out of it. So I went back to school to sort of study why that was the case and to make a living. And now I've actually engineered a purchase of a farm in Appalachia where we collect and we grow out these heirloom seeds that have been passed down generation to generation.
Seed banks, yes.
And yeah, so I'm starting a field school there where students from here can go learn how to farm. In Texas, it's hard. This was not farming country, actually. This traditionally Native Americans, it was a prairie, and the buffalo lived off the grasses, and it's very hard to farm here. I mean, you can do it, but where I come from in the mountains, it's much better farmland. So I'm trying to educate students from this university and have other students come there and do applied sustainable living and learn about farming and learn the plants. And so, yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I hope to end up like you, not be in academia my whole life.
I have one request also. All of us must seriously think in one issue. You see, unfortunately, we are all controlled by politicians. Agree. All decisions, policies, this and that. Now, that's one place which we cannot help. Right? But what we can more do is to bring an awareness which is of international nature. If farmers are issue in America, it's in India also, in Bangladesh also. How best we can, all the rural communities, we let us say it's by and large rural people. It's not only we have a dependence on farming in the rural community, we have a mason there, carpenter, blacksmith, and that truly make a community. We have been thinking that how best, which is a challenge in me, and if I'm talking from my heart. You know what really we need is, see, when Barack Obama can go to India to meet our Prime Minister, and Prime Minister of Manmohan Singh come to meet Barack Obama, and a Chinese Prime Minister, why rural community across the globe can be organized in a place at least one time to explore the common issues and find out. That would be a beginning. Unfortunately, it has never been. Representative of rural communities who are working hard. Yeah. If we at least begin with 100 of them, 100 people target, find that we meet at some place and discuss the issues, many common, because ultimately you will agree with the fact that the politicians know only one language, vote. They do not know any other language. No English, no Hindi, no other language. They know one language, the vote. I am giving a very good example. We, as he pointed out, been working in a very small power generating system. We have second century old water-based technology. Here what happens, then a stream the villager had been taking, and then they run a wooden turbine which is attached to a stone. It do grinding of wheat and flour. It was a system that we had. It came sometime in 2nd century, and it is even today it survived. See, and the technology intervention had never been done. The same technology was taken by these technologists and scientists and built the dam. They were very serious about the dam, but were totally ignored the watermiller. Now we work with the watermillers. We knew, and then we developed one watermill, 2 watermills, 3 watermills. But it was a question of 70,000 water mill along my state and 200,000 across the Himalaya. We did not have. Ultimately, it was the politics and the government we would. That was the only place we would have. We could go.
Yeah.
So we thought, what is the best we can do? We went to, the elections were ahead. The elections were ahead, and we went to one party's political chief. We had told them, we are 70,000 people. If in your manifesto, if you do not mention that after you are coming into the power, you will work for the water millers, their upgradation, all 70,000 into 4, because everybody has 4 members in the family, will not cast vote in your favor. What is the, how do you want to react for that? Then we went up to another political chief. We never knew who will come in the power. So one political party, Congress party chief, we went up. Another party chief, we are alternative, we are BJP or Congress. We went to another party chief. We said, look, we are 70,000 people. If we do not see in your manifesto water mill mention, all 70,000 into 4 will not cast vote for you. Now both of their manifesto came, and both of categorically mentioned, if we will come in the power, we will upgrade the water mills. Now that was one thing. And one party came, he brought a project of 400 million rupees for the water millers. That was the way we could serve the water millers. And it became a national program then after. So that is the way the language, and so that's what I'm saying is, if so much many global climate issues and conferences and this and that and noble to, no, I don't know what are the prizes bestowed all, but ultimately who is the governor of climate issues, people, rural, they do not have any awareness. So I think it is, please Dr. James, I was talking yesterday to the chair also, and she agreed in principle. If we can think of that, we at least, if now 150 people gather and we make one document and ensure that, if I am from India, I send this document to my government. You are from America, you should ensure that you go to Senate somewhere. This document globally should be debated and discussed. The contribution of rural community and the only people who can control the climate change, because they will only bring the lot of forest cover, only they are the one who can do. Delhi, New York to New Delhi, they can't control them. They can only debate and discuss. They can be very serious. They can even have a tear in their eyes, but nothing can happen. And that is one way we can begin with. At least we should not be ambitious that we will bring a change, but at least some thought process, a common opinion building process will begin to come. When scientists from India can come and discuss, why can't a rural community leader can come and discuss in America? And we have, as a leader, we have to do that advocacy. And there, all of you somewhere have to contribute. And I do not mean a contribution, does not mean a paper seed which is $5. This contribution. Because remember, somehow you are managing to live. But what will happen if things go in a way, 50 years after, when you will have children, the bank which you have full of currency will not help. We really need another bank, the bank of water, bank of air, bank of forest. That can only sustain the society for a long and long life. That can only be. So we have to think of another bank, environment bank, and where the rural community can only contribute. And therefore, my request is, I was wondering that I am traveling from Canada to America, giving you speech one after the other. But when I sleep in the night, I say, what is this I am doing? Is this something coming out of it? But I think that I am doing my part of responsibility. Let others also do that. What they do is all right. It doesn't do, it's fine. I am 58. Let us hope that I am at least in a place which is Himalaya, where there is a good forest, good water. Somehow even the water begin to disappear. Somehow I would manage to get down into the river, take 2 bottles of water for me to drink. Let others die in that case, if people are not serious. So that's I am doing my responsibility, and I tell you the responsibility is more on the urbans now. Why rural issues are rural issues? It should be now urban issues, because urban are consuming the rurals and at their cost. So it should be discussed in urban areas, the rural issues, because they should be aware what should happen.
Yeah.
I think I have gone beyond my. Okay, fine.
No, it's fine. If I could just make a few comments and ask you a question. So we are having our presidential elections right now in the U.S., and we've got a very difficult political situation. We just had 3 presidential debates where climate change, farmers, and environment weren't brought up
Not
one
at all.
time.
Yeah. Right.
The only thing that is important is really the neoliberal capitalist agenda. And both parties are really bought off by these big corporations who have no interest in rural issues.
Very sad. Yeah.
So, given that scenario, and also I've studied carbon trading a bit, and also the large corporations sort of control that, and they figure out ways in which they can pollute more, and they're dealing carbon credits back and forth and things like this. And I'm just wondering, and we've talked about this a little bit, political ecology. Actually, I think you about covered every subject that we've talked about in class in one lecture. He pulled it all together.
Indian way of thinking is synthesized thinking. All discipline, interdisciplinarity is automatic.
Absolutely, and I thank you for that. But I'm wondering, so you're, and I don't think it's a bad idea, you're saying that farmers and rural people should get paid for maintaining resources, whether it be forests or water or clean air. In the capitalist model, which is bottom line focused on the constant accumulation of capital, things like deforestation, pollution of water, those are counted as externalities, right? They're not factored into capitalist economic thinking. So I'm wondering if it's possible, given the central tenet of capitalism, to always be making profit, always be consuming, always be accumulating capital. Is it possible to create a program like you're talking about, or do we need to shift? Do we need a different economic model? Do we need a different cultural approach to make what you're saying successful?
Yeah, definitely. You see, any model that we have been. You see, what happens in New Delhi becomes a very important news. But what happens in a New Tehri, in a village, it doesn't become any news. Because the political sustainability lies in Delhi, not in New Delhi. That is, unfortunately, is the reason. What I am trying to say that if somehow we develop a mechanism where rural contribution begin to be seen and become a political issue too, not merely that we request them to do this work, but the community has to be aware that this time we have been saying Congress party, and you also have been saying these both parties do not care. But I am to say, for example, I give you this very good example. This time election, what we do, we said the last time experience was good with us when we told them to keep watermill in your manifesto. With more we became ambitious. This time we said no more your manifesto. This is our manifesto. We gave to both political parties. There must be, that's why I'm saying, when rural leaders will gather, we will make for every country our own manifesto, deciding which are the priorities area and take it to the people. Now we have internet, email, everything. You see, I do not know, when I speak next day, I'm told that my people are listening what I told here. Because here is a YouTube. Yeah?
Sir, you're referring to a small global organization, are you?
Yes, we want at least people from the different rural communities should know what their common problems are there or they are uncommon. And I find that in most majority of cases there are common problems. But unfortunately there has not been a single effort where we can gather people. That's why I say America and you all must see, because I have an access. For example, somehow I am brought here to speak and I am speaking. But what ultimately is going to happen? That's why I'm saying when I'm sleeping, I'm thinking, what is this all? But I think if we begin to think, I have also written a note on that in global. I'll be sending it to you also. And I'll send to as many as people. If we organize one, and then very important, we'll have to ensure that somehow media should be caught. all places. Though if I am coming from Delhi, I'll ensure that most important newspaper will cover what is happening today in Denton, the farmers, the rural people, that will appear in Delhi. And that should appear in the New York Times. We'll have to do that kind of exercise so that it goes a message. The globally, rural communities had gathered at one place and discuss political issues, and we would ensure that we will make our manifesto for all of them to accept it. And we will keep a condition. If all of you do not agree, because one farmer told me, you know what, when I was traveling, he said to me, he told me, what is your intention by doing bicycle? I said, no, it's a social worker. No. Seems to be you are representing some political party. I said, no, I am not. Okay, he said, well, if you are going to the capital of this country, one message you please take from here. I said, what is the message? He said, tell them what you have done after independence. Whatever you have earned, how much did you give, you know better. But even before independence, whatever we produce, we always gave you. But a time will come, what we will produce, we will not give you. You eat any damn thing you can. Eat whatever you have earned so far. We will not give you food. Such a threatening. And I was thinking very right. If all farmers in the world begin to say that you won't listen us, we will not give you this. No, I mean, we'll have to do. We'll have to some way use this technique and use that the political, it becomes an issue where, and you know, look at what percentage of when Obama is and the other guy who are contesting for president election, now let me know in American total number of votes, who will decide the Obama as a president or other one as a president. If you compare them, urban will be 20-30% and 70% will be rural. When they, and everywhere in my country also, when they make a president, prime minister, why not they say more important? That's what I'm saying, and that has to be realized. I say in my country, you are the one who makes the prime minister, and you are not neglected. You are farmer also, you are rural also. So you should do that. We believe that it has to be trained, and it trains, you know, this is a kind of a disease which immediately spread. If it happens in New York, China and everywhere, that rural community geared up, I think there will be a beginning. I do not say what will happen, but there will be definitely a beginning. And all of you have to help and see. And I'm thinking, I'm very seriously saying, please organize this. I'll come myself too, and we will organize and at least a historical issue. That will be a historical event. It has never been done before, I am telling you. It will be historical, and that will be wonderful if we can do that. And all of those sitting in this room will serve the rural people. That should be the responsibility we take in a way. That's
Okay, anything else? Any other question, comment, thought?
I'd just like to say one other thing. I think there is merit to organizing, I call it from the inside out or from the ground roots up. Because what that does is it plays above and beyond the economic power system of the media being controlled by power. It places that control. I'm a community organizing person, so forth. That, you know, that the concept of that, while it may seem hopeless with it being from geographics with the technology, that takes it to another level. I think that there is great merit in that idea of organizing.
She's fully supporting your suggestion. That's it? All right. Oh, one more.
So say the rural farmers do revolt and don't give the urban people food, what's to stop the urban people, the politicians to call power to send the military?
Oh gosh. He's saying if rural people say no to food, not giving food to urban people, what will happen if urban people send military to the villages, something like that you said?
the city will plow the land. You see, that cannot be. Either of the thing cannot be. But the only issue is, you see, all of us roots are in rural. Even those who are living in the urban, they have a roots, rural. And at least this kind of issue will realize them, they have to pay back to the rural communities. But since he said, because he was so sad about that nothing is happening to them in their favor, that was the one he quoted it. But I am to tell you that it is truly that we will have to agree the militarization is not the answer. But the only thing is that we must respect, acknowledge their contribution in building up the nation and the human. And that is what they look forward to. They want their say. That's only their, and they have a right to go get safe.
But they have to stand together in numbers. Otherwise, the government will take them off one by one.
Right. That's what she's saying. They have to be united.
Then naturally, that's why. And it should be a global scene.
I think so.
All right.
Okay, thank you.